What is going on, guys? It's very hot in Sydney today, hence why I'm not wearing a regular shirt. So comfortable right now. I had like about 4 different articles that I wanted to read to you today, but I can't do them all in one sitting. Well, I can, but it'll take like an hour. So I'm just going to go with this one because this kind of summarizes and encapsulates broadly the other ones. Obviously, I'll touch on the other ones at a later date. But this one focuses on the mainstream media and the shameless manipulation of women. Now, if you asked me a couple of years back, do I think that women shouldn't vote? Right? And look, this is just devil's advocate here, right? I would have said, hell no. Now I question it because girls are most likely to be indoctrinated at university. Girls are most likely to be indoctrinated by the media. Girls are most likely to be indoctrinated by social media. Right? And we're seeing this constantly, like girls buying into this feminist crap, right? And that I'm seeing like videos of 6, like 7, 8-year-old girls saying, oh, fuck that sexist shit. Like, they're saying this on YouTube. They're all dressed up like they're freaking single mothers. Single mothers have got them all dressed up, spouting feminist crap, right? And the reason that the reason that politicians pander so much to women is because the media wants them their money and the politicians want their vote. And it's very, very easy to get both of those things if you pander to women. Now, I know I've got some female subscribers, right? And especially those of you who have been around for a while, you know I'm not sexist. You know I'm not a misogynist, right? But I'm sure you guys can even see some of the nonsense that's been going on. Kind of go, well, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Even when it comes to the president, right? They're like, we need a female president in the US. No, but it can't be Betsy DeVos. And it can't be a conservative woman. And it can't be Candace Owen. Oh, but we love Hillary because Hillary's great. She'll be the first woman. It's like, no. And the mainstream media pushes all this shit through a feminist lens to appeal to women. Because if they give any preference to men, women will switch off. Right? But giving preference to men doesn't actually change men's mind. We think critically. Unfortunately, I'm seeing far too much of non-critical thinking. Anyway, look, guys, I guess I've given my thoughts, although I may not have articulated it perfectly. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say with this. And, I'm not being mean about it, but it's just what I've observed, right? Over a year ago, Donald Trump was elected as the latest US president in a surprise result which hit the mainstream media hard. The problem was that the biggest media players in the US and indeed worldwide had nearly completely and mostly unofficially endorsed his competitor, Hillary Clinton. The mainstream media was suddenly faced with the unpalatable truth that they had failed to adequately influence the outcome of the US presidential election, and they were trying to influence it. There's no question. Despite their gargantuan efforts to the contrary, the somewhat surprising result was that the public thought for themselves, and the mainstream media was left with the knowledge that its potential to manipulate public perception on important issues was not as great as it had hoped or thought. And this is why we've got the alternative media. This is why what's happening is people are turning to YouTube. People are turning to BitChute. People are turning to conservative news sites. People are switching off their TVs. Right? They're not buying the newspaper in the morning. Right? They're not listening to the radio. Right? And I'm seeing this trend. I'm seeing it a lot. A consequence of this is that it shone light on the media's attempt to manipulate democracy to push their ideological position, which usually aligns with their financially advantageous goals, right? And their ideological position is a feminist position, and the media is overrun by feminists. Marketing, advertising, it's a female-dominated industry, and most of these females have come through university and done an arts degree, and the arts degrees in humanities are totally infested with this toxic feminist rhetoric. All right, let me get back to where I was saying. So yeah, and which usually aligns with their financially advantageous goals, because there's a lot of money in feminism. I just wanted to say a very big thank you to AV Scotland Flower. It says the world gynocracy, not a man 2020. Appreciate your $2 donation, brother. In an age where newspaper circulation is down and alternative media influence is up, newspapers need to maintain a business model which is realistic and profitable, which is correct, while retaining their dwindling relevancy. They achieve this mostly through advertising, and they are increasingly desperate to increase their online advertising revenue as hard copy sales take a hit. Companies pay newspapers to advertise their products so as to reach their target demographic, women. Worldwide, 80% of all purchases are made by women. Let that fact sink in for a moment. By working longer hours, right? Men may make more money than women by working longer hours, engaging in more dangerous careers, and entering professions which are more difficult but pay better, such as engineering. Right? But women still make but women still spend more money than men do. If you want to sell your product, even if that product is aimed at men, you also target women. And this is what Gillette was doing with the ad. This is why Gillette targeted women with the Gillette ad, because they wanted to influence the women in the household to purchase Gillette for the partners. They want, you know what I mean? This is what's going on. So yeah, if you want to sell your product, even if that product is aimed at men, you also target women, as they usually control the purse strings in relationships and the family unit. But yet the feminists are always the one that's saying the men are the one that are financially controlling. And it's right, and it's the women that are financially controlled. But realistically, that's not the case. Right? So when advertisers want to sell something, they know their best chance of capitalizing their return on advertising investment is to reach out to the main decision maker in financial matters, which is usually women. So in their desperate quest to maintain profit margins, newspapers need to deliver the female demographic to potential advertisers. Doing so gives good return on investment to the advertisers and makes strong business sense to the publisher. This is why even Channel 9 in Australia has got a Channel 9 Honey, and the 24-hour station is specifically focused on women's stuff. Just like if you go to the dailymail.co.uk, they've actually got a section called Female, F-E-M-A-I-L, and it's exclusively female, right? So you got all these different news outlets looking for ways to appeal to women in very exclusive ways. And you even see Ford and Toyota at the moment in Australia. They no longer use men as the key person in their ads. They use women, because women make the purchasing decisions with the male's money. This is why the mainstream media caters to women. This is why the mainstream media is so gynocentric. This shit's real. So how do newspapers deliver the female demographic to their advertisers? And this is the real question to be answered. This is the real question to be answered, right? The answer is ruthless manipulation, for which long-term exposure is damaging to women, men, and society as a whole. Before explaining how this manipulation works, there are some facts which do need to be stated. Right? And feminism does exploit women as a resource. It exploits them as useful idiots. And I'm not saying that women are idiots, right? Because women are smart in their own rights, right? In the areas where women have a particular focus or they excel, right? They're smart in their own right. Don't get me wrong. Right? But men and women have got their own areas of expertise. But when it comes to the media, they're very, very easily manipulated by the media. And this is highlighting that. So the first fact was already included above in that 80% of purchases are made by women. Secondly, women hold a disproportionate amount of wealth compared to what they earn. Funny that. All you men out there know that's the truth. In the US, for example, women own 60% of the wealth, yet earn only 40% of it through salaried or self-employment. So not only do we have to create government positions for women and push them in there and pay them more to bridge this elusive wage gap, but we don't need to balance out the resource gap. No. We don't need to give 1/6 of that percent that women hold and give that back to men. We don't need to do that. That's going too far, right? Because that's just stealing from women, isn't it? But is it not stealing from men when our taxes are redistributed to social services and welfare for women, right? When we're the ones that primarily have to pay the child support if a woman decides they want out and that they're taking their kid, not our kids, their kids. Think about this. This is deep shit. By 2020, one report states that women worldwide, guys, seriously, sit down for this. Sit down for this. All right. And it's good to see you, Red Pill Creator. I appreciate you, man. By 2020, go check out Red Pill Creator, guys. By 2021, report states that women worldwide will spend the equivalent of $28 trillion US. $28 trillion US is how much women are going to spend by 2020. Yet, they will only earn 18 trillion of that themselves. So they will be spending in the next year or two $10 trillion of men's money. $10 trillion of money that doesn't belong to them. Just let's let that sink in for a moment. All right. Additionally, when in a position of power, women are roughly 4 to 5 times more likely to exhibit positive sexism to their own gender than men. This means that a female CEO is 4 to 5 times more likely to promote equivalently capable or qualified women over men than a man is to promote men over women. Let that also sink in. One only needs to look to Yahoo's female CEO to see the changes she implemented to the company management and the consequent legal cases brought against her as she changed the gender ratio from 80% men to 80% women in a matter of 18 months, 1.5 years only. Completely flipped it, purely for the sake of ideology and feminist outcomes. Thirdly, women enjoy seeing men fail. Ain't that the fucking truth? Women enjoy seeing men fail. A controversial statement, but backed up with various studies. Whatever the reason, research shows that women are more likely to buy products when men are painted in a negative light. Hence why so many women are saying that they're going to go out and buy Gillette now. Huh? This stuff's real, guys. This is deep psychology. So whatever the reason, research shows that women are more likely to buy products when men are painted in a negative light and women in a positive light. This creates a feel-good factor among women and encourages them to buy products where this misandric power dynamic mechanism is in play. Television adverts and comedy shows have been exploiting this effective technique for a long time now. Where the mainstream media comes in is taking this mechanism one step further. By disseminating material which makes women feel good, they grab a slice of the female demographic and offer value to their advertisers. Right? Anyone hear the cash registers? Cha-ching, cha-ching. This is what the mainstream media is in it for. They don't care. They don't care about us. They don't care about society. They don't care what they're doing to families. They don't care what they're doing to anyone. Right? It's all about this at the end of the day. That's why I've switched off from the mainstream media. The only reason I even go anywhere near the mainstream media is so I can get content to share with you guys about all the crazy shit that women are doing. Like, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of some upcoming videos right after this video, and it's going to blow your mind, the kind of shit that I'm going to cover. All right? And this is just all stuff I came across today only. Let me get back to this. Women will constantly come back to read publications which make them feel good in some way. This is why, like, oh, you know, you big, beautiful women, instead of saying, you're fat, you're going to die early, you should probably do something about that. They're like, oh, you're big and beautiful and you're healthy size and, you know, you're such a great catch. This is what the mainstream media do. This is exactly what this article is talking about. Like I said, this is deep-seated psychology, guys. We are currently experiencing a race to the bottom to see which media publishers dive lowest to cater to the latest fads, which boosts women's self-esteem. Right? Is this all making sense to you guys? Because it's sure as shit making sense to me. Fact-based, so yeah, the cater to the lowest fads, which boosts women's self-esteem, usually at men's expense. Fact-based journalism has given way to emotion-based journalism. Again, women, emotions. Women have estrogen. They are more susceptible to feeling emotional, right? Whereas men are more susceptible to being aggressive and competitive. But if they have a male role model in the house, then they can regulate that aggression and put it to good use. Right? So feminists, if you want to stop domestic violence, right? If you want to stop guys that don't know how to control their aggression, you can do two things. You can stop being cunts to them to begin with, right? Because that helps a lot. And you can let them have their fathers in their lives, because that also helps a lot. Just a couple of tips for you on how to end domestic violence. Oh yeah, and don't drink alcohol and drugs, because that's like the number one risk factor in domestic violence. And if there's no alcohol and drugs involved, it's far less likely for things to escalate, you know. I'm just saying, I know you don't like talking about facts, feminists, but that's just how it is. That's real. All right, I'm going to get back into this, guys. Sorry, I know I've been rambling a little bit. Thanks for staying with me. This is good stuff here. Textbook. Was I not just talking about this? Whether that is the body positive movement, which dangerously aims to legitimize and remove stigma from obesity, right? To the fake wage gap discrimination myth, which is constantly being rolled out as clickbait, right? As clickbait to secure women's readers and get people commenting and arguing online. A good flame war is mainstream media's new obsession in securing reader interaction and hence value for advertisers, right? This is real tactics. Nowadays, a self-pitying female reader and an incensed angry male reader makes good business sense in terms of page views and online clicks, not to mention interacting with the comment section. Now, I was just quickly asked here by the Mad MGTOW, what about female perpetrators of domestic violence? Same thing, drugs and alcohol, and being provoked. Works both ways, right? There's no change. Domestic violence is not a gendered issue. Although the mainstream media, those honest people in the mainstream media, you know, those people that totally don't manipulate you for money and for advertising revenue and for their own agenda, right? They'll tell you otherwise, that it is gendered. Oh, and because they're run by feminists. Mainstream media will publish any material, which is... Fuck, was I not just talking about this again? Mainstream media will publish any material which teaches women they are victims and suffer oppression. exactly what I was just saying about domestic violence. Exactly. Certain women read this material vociferously and become hopelessly addicted to it. Again, getting addicted to propaganda and then going and voting based on that propaganda. That's why I was saying maybe it's not such a good idea on overall balance for women to have the vote until, of course, they start turning against feminists, and then we can become an egalitarian society on some level, hopefully, even if it's only by way of mindset. Here we go. So yeah, certain women read this material vociferously and become hopelessly addicted to it, as it helps them feel they are not responsible in their own mind for their weight problem, or following a gender studies course rather than an engineering one, or some other such insecurity and poor decision or attitude in life. Thank you to Strength of a Man for that £10 donation. I appreciate €10 donation. I appreciate you, brother. He says, got to give something back for all the laughs I've gotten. The UK sperm news made me die laughing. It was pretty funny. The mainstream media is ruthlessly exploiting and misleading these women into thinking that they have somehow been disempowered or oppressed. And academia is doing this as well. We know what's going on in universities, guys. The method of choice to do this is most effectively to embrace feminism. For those who care to read about these things, feminism is a movement whose stated goals and actual goals are very different. Correct. The media gets a steady stream of evil men stories, which many women love to read, and poor female victim stories, which again, women love to read. A two-pronged attack, which is incredibly effective at manipulating women into feeling victimized and or not responsible for their own mistakes in life, and eventually parting with cash. And not only their own collective cash, but 10 trillion more of men's cash. Do you see how huge this is, guys? A knock-on effect is that these women who are effectively addicted to victim status and being disempowered need their fix of confirmation bias from the media. It is truly an addiction. Contentious and ill-conceived concepts such as patriarchy are used to reel these women into reading more and more bigoted material on a daily basis on why their flaws and failures are in fact the fault of men everywhere. And that society has an inherent bias against women in favor of men, which is demonstrably wrong. The end result is a disempowered woman and an aggrieved man, but a happy advertiser who can now consistently reach the demographic with the most buying power, women. The mainstream media cares not for the damage it causes to any of the affected parties. Its main goal is revenue generation. The long-term consequence is the destruction of relations between men and women, which incidentally has been a stated feminist goal since the 80s. Another benefit of harvesting female readership is the manipulation of democracy. I was just talking before. Most floating swing voters are women. Indeed, at every age in Western countries, there are more female voters than male voters. Politicians are acutely aware of this, which is why few will criticize the feminist hate machine. Besides, for the last election, because we've seen what happens when people criticize feminism or denounce being a feminist, as far as to call myself a feminist. Other women are like, oh, of course not, you're a misogynist, oh, I'm voting Democrat, oh, fuck Republicans. Like, take your shout mouth and fucking shut it, you crazy bitches. Right? Hand in your voting rights. Right? Just lock yourself up in your room on voting day. Because that's probably the best thing for the whole entire world if you do that. If you're that emotional, that you react like that to someone saying, I'm for men, I'm for women, I'm for everybody. Right? That's called egalitarianism, when you're for everybody, not just vagina. What's going on, Meggie? Says, speak the truth, Sydney. Expose the lamestream Marxist media. That's exactly right. The Marxist media is largely concocted of Marxist university graduates also. So that's another thing to be considered. Politicians are, as I said, politicians are acutely aware of this, which is why few will criticize the feminist hate machine. Besides, for the last election, the outcome of the previous 5 US elections was determined by floating voters, i.e. women. Political parties need to win their vote. So not only do we see the media trying to portray all women as frail and vulnerable, but we see politicians exploiting this shameless tactic to try and win their vote. As a real-world example, in the 80s, there was only limited financial resources in the UK National Health Service for medical treatment. But, as an election pledge to get the female voters, right? As an election pledge, women were promised free breast cancer screening to ensure their vote, and it worked. This was the infamous gamble Margaret Thatcher made in the UK, right? Sunrise, email me, man. I love Make America Granny Caps. Hopefully be able to come to a meetup that's happening soon. Margaret Thatcher made in the UK to win re-election. No equivalent service was offered to men for screening of testicular or prostate cancer, right? By giving women victim status and promising special treatment, both the mainstream media and political parties benefit. At least they do short term. The bigger picture is, however, that decades of embracing feminism and anti-male propaganda has made society fail both men and women in many ways, and it's being noticed. Men's rights activists are fighting back against the negative portrayal of men in society by both the mainstream media and politicians. And, so are YouTube content creators. They're not necessarily MRAs, but, just want people to hear the truth like I do. However, they are being demonized and accused of being misogynists. Yeah, misogynists! Of course. What a fucking surprise. The feminist and indeed the left's go-to ploy to silence dissent or criticism is just that. Just look at the furor over John McEnroe's factual, in essence, comment that female competitors in sport have a biological disadvantage against men. Right? We all saw that. That happened. And, they can't handle the truth. And they don't want to handle the truth. They don't want to know the truth. Because their ideologically possessed position is that men and women are the same. And it's just all social. And it's all legislated. And men are controlling women by way of legislation. But in fact, it's the other way around. Right? When Donald Trump defeated the opportunistic and corporate-sponsored Hillary Clinton, something bigger happened than just an election win. The public won. The public won. It's exactly what happened. They sent a clear message to the mainstream media and politicians that their manipulation is transparent and will no longer work. The question remains to be seen. If the message reaches the ears of advertisers and if change is coming in the way that men and women are treated in pursuit of profit. Until that moment arrives, if ever, women need to be aware of the mainstream media and politicians' exploitation of females' latent anti-male bias. It is time women silence the hate rhetoric of feminism for good and instead promote true equality, aka egalitarianism, not feminism. The problem is not feminism, though. That is just a symptom. The problem is female antipathy towards men's suffering and society's lack of empathy for the same. Until women stand together with men, inequality will exist and women will be ripe for exploitation by the media and politicians chasing an easy election victory or quick profit. This article, I don't even need to say anything else. It just is fucking sensational. You can't argue with that logic. And it's all true. right? And it articulated what I've been feeling for so long now in such a concise way, even though it was a little bit of a longer article. Now, see, at the start of this video, right, I did tell you that I would give you a couple of titles of some article about why I think that support my concept that maybe it wasn't such a great idea to give women the vote, right? If you're not convinced enough by the article I just read. Here we go. Woman who changed race, believes she can have a black baby with her white husband. Russian mother bought chocolate for her children, aged 2 and 4, before strangling them and burning their bodies. Let's check another article. Woman who earns a 6-figure salary says she's always broke and it's one addiction that is breaking the bank. Gee, I wonder if that addiction is shopping, because I can't possibly imagine what else it might be. And yes, it's shopping. She's a fucking idiot. Here we go. Unicorn armpit hair is the best beauty trend of 2019 so far. Right? And then we've got this Bridezilla, who is this makeup caked thought. Drunk female troopers let off 3 a.m. sex assault on a fellow officer. Minister for Women, Kelly O'Dwyer, quits politics to look after her kids. And all this time she was saying that more women should be in the workforce, right? And that women totally don't make different decisions which cause an earnings gap, right? It's like, did these people, and then Prue Goward, right? She was like the Minister for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. But get this, Prue Goward's daughter is a drug abusing, alcohol abusing, partner abusing, violent domestic abuser. Like, and yet she's on this tirade against men. I'm like, your own fucking daughter is exactly what we need to stop. And then Google staff complain the word family is homophobic, right? Because it implies that family should be a man and a woman. And of course, we know what Google's like. We can't have men and women. We can't have anything that's binary, even though every fucking piece of software code on the planet is binary, you dickheads. Right? A venue tells white gender fluid comedian that he has to leave because he's appropriating African culture blocks. Right? Woman jailed for lying about being raped by ex-partner after she already had a new partner and was living in his house with them. Right? Wife burns husband alive when he refused to give her the passcode to his phone. Right? Mother pleads with judge to jail her 12-year-old boy. No mention of the father in that story. Right? And then this obese chick reveals her horrific dating experiences. But she's like, oh, the guy that I met up with, he didn't look like his profile picture. He didn't look like the way that he described. I was expecting Keanu Reeves. I'm like, well, Keanu Reeves doesn't expect to rock up and be greeted by a land whale. Like, the double standard is unbelievable. Right? And of course, women have got so many men wrapped around their little finger. There was a guy, I kid you not, he proposed to his girlfriend. Stabbed him 13 times. In court! When she was in court for the stabbing! Like, fuck! so fucking retarded. He's so retarded. Woman fitness test given a pass by the army. For fuck's sake. And we've got women marrying chandeliers. We've got women marrying fucking bridges and the Eiffel Tower. Like, what the fuck? And some people still wonder why I sometimes question whether women should have the vote or not. Fuck! Anyway, guys. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm actually, not only have I put the link to this article below, but I'm also going to drop, once I finish this live stream, I'm going to drop the link to a YouTube video that you have to watch, and it is example after example after example in only a few minutes. It's just this constant barrage of examples of the mainstream media manipulating women, completely backing up and substantiating exactly what I just said in this video. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you all. I look forward to catching you in the next video. I'll see you guys around. Make sure to check out the link